Bismillah. Welcome to third chapter and fourth lesson of this course, Guide to Joomla. Today it is very important lesson. I will let you know about the system setting of the Joomla admin, and it also take effects on admin as well as on front of the website. So after you see the website login admin, you will go to login and right side of your website admin, you see the system block. There are three options under this system block. One is the global check-in, second is the cache, third is the global configuration. It is actually a admin module in which three settings are there. First, I will let you know about the global check-in. It allows administrator to perform a global check-in of all currently pending or locked items. It then shows the results of the global check-in. This is useful, for example, if an article is locked by a user who opened it for editing and never finished the editing session. So in this case, other users are not able to edit this article. Performing a global check-in releases all such items. So let's click on it. Okay, while clicking on it, as I am only one admin, I am not editing any article. You see, it is giving a message. There are no tables with the checked out items. So let's go to back to home dashboard. Next is the cache. So cache is very important. Page caches. There are three types of cache available in the Joomla. One is page cache, other is the conservative caching, third is the progressive caching. The two latter conservative and progressive caches can be enabled from the global configuration, while page cache enables to cache a full page. To switch this on, go to administrator, extensions, plugin, find the system page cache plugin, enable it. Let me do it. I am on the Joomla 4. I will go to system, then under the plugins, go to the plugins. Here you can search for the page cache. By default this is enabled, this is disabled. I will go to it, I will enable it, then save and close it. It has enabled the plugin. Let me go to the global configuration to tell you about the other cache settings. After you are in the global configuration, in the system tab, you will see whole block of cache. It has first system cache on, off and off. Three options are there. If you want to enable the conservative caching, you can use it, select it, and I save and close it. Now what is this? This means that you can cache the view output from components and the output from those modules which allow caching. But note that this will work only on the pages which are not cached using the page cache. As for those pages, the whole web page is cached. Conservative caching is not even considered. Now the third one is the progressive caching. Progressive caching also caches the output from component views and from modules. The functional difference between the two is that the progressive caching for logged off user, all the modules are always cached. In this case, setting the no cache option for a module has no effect. If the cache storage option is to file, then you can find the module cache file. The output from all the module is stored within the same file, within the cache and com underscore module directory. So this is a basic about the cache system in the Joomla. The next is the global configuration. Let me take again you to global configuration. When I'm on the global configuration, there are some tabs on the top of global configuration. First one is the site. The site name, enter the name of your website. This will be used in the various locations, for example, backend, browser title, bar, and site offline pages, etc. The next is site offline, yes or no. If you are developing your website, you want to show a welcome page or coming soon page, you can enable this option. Next is the custom message. When the site is offline, you can show a custom message. You can show a custom message to your user. This website is down for maintenance, or whatever you want to show in front end of website. I am again setting it to no. Next is the front end editing. Select if you want inline editing for modules and menu items. You have three options here. Next is the default editor. If you install some extension like JCE editor, it will be visible also here. If you want to inline editing for modules and menu items, and also for the front editing the articles, default editor you can select from here. Next is the default captcha your website. By default, it is non-selected. It is very important when you need to enter required information for your captcha plugin in the plugins. From the you want to enable user when they register from website. You don't want to allow the spammer to be registered on your website, so you have to enable this option, but you have to first enable the captcha plugins from the extension plugin settings. Then there is by default Google reCAPTCHA being installed in the Joomla. You can use them. When I will teach you about the registration process, I will show you how to do it. Next is the default list limit. It sets the default length of list in the control panel for all users. Next is the default feed limit. Select the number of content items to show in the feed, whether it is a article, module, plugin showing in the admin or in the front end. You can select how many records to show in one page. Next is the feed email address. The RSS and Atom news feeds include the other's email address. Select other email to use each other's email from the user manager in the news feed. Select site email to include the site mail from email address for each article. Next are the meta setting of website which are useful for the SEO. So first is the meta description. You can have 160 characters in this meta description of your website, and allow the robots to index follow, no index follow, index no follow, no index no follow. Next is also SEO setting. It is about the search engine friendly URL. If I enable it, there are three more options. Use URL rewriting. When I enable this option, use URL rewriting, in Joomla 4, it gives a notification to rename this file to this file, and also rename this file to this file if you are on IIS web server. Next, add suffix to URL. It means if you want to show extension like .html to your pages, it will add if you enable this option. Next is the site name in page title. If you want to show before the site name before the menu items that you see in the page title, or after the page title show the website name. It is important if you are working with the SEO. So after it, there is next is the system tab. First of all, if you want to debug, if you are developing your you are working on your website, developer is working on your website, they want to diagnose your website, language translation and SQL errors. If present, then it will be shown if I press it to yes and save it. Also, if I enable the debug language to yes, it also gives us the error about the translation. The string which are not translated and on your website, it will show errors with some static notification that will be presenting that this is related to language debugging. Next is the cache setting. I have already told you about the system cache and the cache handler, and this platform specific cache enables or disable platform specific cache. Enable when HTML output on mobile differs from the other devices. Next is the cache time, the maximum length of time in minutes for a cache file to be stored before it is refreshed. Be sure this time is in the minutes. And the path to cache folder, specify a writable folder to store the cache file if you do not wish to use the default folder, which I told you was the cache folder that is in the root of the website. Next are the session settings. First is the session handler. It can be file system or database. The mechanism by which Joomla identifies a user once they are connected to the website using non-persistent cookies. By default, it is a database, so keep it as a database. I prefer database. The database session handler is the default handler because it is only the Joomla can fully configure and control on its own. The file system handler will be slightly more performant than the database handler, but it requires PHP to be configured properly, otherwise it will crash and Joomla will be totally unusable. To use it, select file system and then enter a full file system path in the let me show you this path in the save session save path field that appears. Ensure the path has appropriate permission for PHP to read and write the files. If session garbage collection is enabled to delete files from, if the path is not set, Joomla will relay on the PHP session.save path ini configuration or fall back to the system temporary directory as defined by the system get underscore temp underscore directory method. If neither of those paths are configured or the permission are wrong, then it's game over. To recover, edit the configuration.php file and set the session underscore handler is equal to database. So keep it back to the database. Next is the session lifetime. Auto log out a user after they have been inactive for the entered number of minutes. Do not set too high. I only have set to this high number because I am only the user to my website. Next is the shared session. When enabled, a user session is shared between the front end and administration section of the website. Note that changing the values will invalidate all the existing session the user which are logged in on the site. This is not available when the force HTTPS option is set to administration only. Okay, the next server settings are: first one is the path to temp folder. Specify a writable folder to store temporary files. Next is the gzip page compression. The gzip page compression, if enabled, it compresses the buffered output if supported. And next are error reporting. This parameter sets the level of error reporting to be used by PHP on the Joomla side. It has 5 options. It has 5 options in Joomla 3 and 4 options in Joomla 4. These are actually used when someone is developing the Joomla website and they want to view the fully error while developing the extensions, websites, templates, plugins, whatever. Next is the force HTTPS. If your server has SSL installed, you can enable this option to entire site. So next is the database setting. By default, there are database types MySQL PDO and MySQLi. My database is MySQLi, and the host name, localhost, database username, and password if you want to change it later, and database name to which your Joomla website is connected, the table prefix. During installation, data I gave the database and database prefix are there, and the connection encryption. We don't need to change these settings. Okay, the next is the mail setting. If you have to use the Joomla mail setting, enable this option to yes, and disable mass mail to yes also, and set the from email. Create a email which is based on your domain name. I will be using this domain, so I created an email from the cPanel and I use this. You can set the from email name. Select which mailer for delivery of website mail. I use the PHP mail which is reliable, and use my domain name email address to send and receive the mails. You can also use this button send test mail to check if mails are being sent properly or not. Next we move to next tab, which is the logging setting of the website. First one is the logging. Part to log folder. This means it can be used to show the error logs or changing updates log. So that was today's lesson. I hope you learned a lot of from today admin settings, and it was a global setting. It was important chapter. So next I will tell you more about the Joomla. So stay connected. See you in the next lesson.